Hogstyle.
Hey everybody, and we are here with a big Washington win over Atlanta. This is Alex with you on the Hog side. I got Steve with me. Hope you guys enjoyed that shootout. It seems like those are the kind of games that Washington's going to have to play if they want to get a win this year, because the defense, well, they continue to not do their jobs. Let's put it that way. After a lot of talking about job doing, they do not do it. And, you know, Steve, I'm going to pose this question. It's not to you, it's out to the world. You know, if somebody asked me to do my job, I'm good at my job, my day-to-day job of, you know, doing AV and video production and all that stuff. But if someone were to ask me to become the accountant for a day, maybe I'd suck at it. So sometimes I wonder, is Washington being asked to be accountants when they're out there and not do what they're good at? Like, is that what's going on? Because that's what I see when I watch them play.
Well, first of all, this game was when two mediocre to bad teams actually entertain. That was this game.
Right.
And second, I was literally asked to be an accountant for this website.
That's true.
It's not my specialty. So I actually know from whence you speak.
That is true.
But look, I mean, in terms of, the real question is, does the defense suck? Yes, the defense sucks. You know, it's yet another game where we saw no sacks from Chase Young.
Mm-hmm.
We got one from Montez Sweat this time, and they generally put significantly more pressure on Matt Ryan than they had other previous quarterbacks. However, that was supposed to happen because, newsflash, Atlanta sucks.
Right.
Like we said before in the beginning, that was my opening from the game preview, and I repeated here, Atlanta sucks. So I'm glad they won. But the fact that a bad team put 30 points up on the supposed vaunted Washington defense doesn't bode well. And we saw a cavalcade of mistakes this time. We saw, deep safety. I guess it was Bobby McCain, not Cam Curl, give up a touchdown. Just the worst cover 3 mistake ever.
Well, so it's on the safety, but yet again, this is, I think, the 4th game in a row where we've seen a huge blown coverage. And it's always Jackson's guy. Like, the guy starts out going against Jackson, and yeah, it's a zone. I get that. But the guy gets about 20 yards behind Jackson, and whoever the safety is isn't there because Jackson thinks he's got safety help.
Yeah, but, listen. That safety did not do his job.
No,
I
he
blame
didn't.
it 100% on the safety.
He didn't do
100% to me.
And they didn't do it last week. They didn't do it the week before that. They didn't do it the week before that. It's a constant thing where it's Jackson and whoever the safety is. And it's been different safeties in different games now. But we've seen this 4 times in a row.
Jackson is disappointed. There's no doubt. He had a PI, big PI, call on him today as well. That particular play, I blame the safety because that's just the worst. I mean, you can never fight like that.
No. That was as bad as I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. So, while they did get more pressure on Ryan, they really didn't get to him but once. And they got, a couple quarterback hits on him?
They got a couple. They had that one great play that turned into a turnover, then turned into not a turnover and somehow a pass interference on what was a clean quarterback hit. And barely even a quarterback hit, frankly. I mean, if the quarterback still has the ball and can throw it cleanly, how's that a quarterback hit?
Well, are you talking about where Ryan threw it from one knee down?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, Young punched him in the face. I
if by
get it.
Face you mean shoulder, sure.
No, I mean by the chin is where he got punched, kind of in this lower chin. And given the direction that the NFL has gone in the past several years with this quarterback thing, I find it hard to disagree with the call. To be objective about, it stunk for Washington and all that. And that certainly was a game-changing play for sure. But I find it hard to disagree with the refs, given just the status of NFL officiating and the way the NFL's gone with protecting quarterbacks, because I didn't think it was a shoulder. I thought it was sort of in the chin, face mask, chin kind of area. So I find it hard to disagree with the call on
When
that
your
one.
forearm hits the lower part of a face mask, I mean, look, face masks are gigantic. They're cartoonish size to begin with.
It was still around the chin area. I mean, still the head.
I mean, around the chin area, like if you're wearing a face mask, that's like from your nipples on up these days. That's the problem.
Yeah, but it was about at the chin, I thought. So
We have
it was
plexiglass. We don't even need face masks anymore. By the way, I'll just put that out there too. You know, like face masks are antiquated. They look cool, so we keep them.
well, not everybody wears a face mask. You know, I wouldn't wear one. The plexi thing, I wouldn't wear one if I was a football player because I wouldn't want that to restrict my field of vision and get
Sure.
scratched and all that. Personally, I would rather have face masks, but that's neither here nor there. I find it hard to disagree with the call. Objectively speaking, given the way the NFL protects its quarterbacks, I just can't disagree with it. If that happened to Heineke, we would be crying for a call. Put that way. So that's my thought. And
Well,
let me just get this
the
one,
other
other one out there too, as long as we're talking about referees and whatnot.
I mean, there were 3 other turnovers that were called back by refs, 2 against. So I counted 4 total turnovers where the refs called against, called a penalty or a non-call of some kind. 3 were against Washington, 1 was against Atlanta. I mean, that's kind of where we are. Like, that's an absurd number of turnovers that were, oh, no, something happened that this is not a turnover now.
Like the Cole Holcomb one,
Yeah.
I thought was the right call. Clearly,
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
the right call.
Depends. Did you hear a whistle? I didn't hear a whistle.
Yes, I did.
I don't know.
And so did other players on the field too, because they stopped. Several of them stopped playing. So I thought that was the right call. The Terry McLaurin one was really close. I mean, if you look at it on the replay, it looks like he made a football move before he fumbled.
Once you
but
slow
it was
it
so
down,
fast.
but that's always the tricky part. Is in slow motion, everything can look like a football move.
I mean, it was a football move. He did turn his body, but it was such a split-second thing that I would find it hard to overrule the call on the field if I was a ref
And then
on
there
that
was
one.
another Atlanta fumble that kind of was not, like at the whistle, they're saying it was a fumble, that kind of thing.
I didn't have a huge problem with the refereeing in this game. They had a bunch of really tough calls. The McKissick touchdown was a tough call. Great play by JD. I will get to that, but it was a bunch of really tough calls. I didn't think there were any clear and obvious like blown calls. God, this is a terrible call. Let's string that ref up. I didn't see those. I just thought they made a bunch of tough calls. I didn't have a problem with the refs today overall.
No, I mean, my issue with the whole concept of forward progress is if you were to blow the play dead and somehow a guy gets out of the tackle, more often than not, they'll still, let's say they say, oh, no, it's dead, and then the guy gets out of the tackle and leaps for a first down, they'll still give it to him more often than not. And that's, forward progress is a bad concept. Let the guy be down or let him not be down. Like, just let the play out.
I know, but that's the rule. I mean, I hear you, but that's the rule, I don't know. I mean, I got to be objective. I just thought there were a bunch of close calls. A bunch of them went against Washington, but I didn't think the refs were just totally wrong like they have been in the recent weeks. I didn't think the refs were totally wrong in this case. That's just how I feel. Okay, let me do stats real fast. Let's knock this out.
All right.
Taylor Heineke, 23 of 33 for 290 yards, 8.8 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 127.1. Antonio Gibson, 14 for 63, 4.5 yards per attempt. Taylor Heineke was 5 for 43. J.D. McKissick, 7 for 15. Jarrett Patterson, 2 for 1 yard. Leading reception, Terry McLaurin, huge day. 6 receptions, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, long of 33. J.D. McKissick, 5 for 44 with the big one that won the game there at the end. DeAndre Carter, 1 for 24. Adam Humphries, 1 for 19. Dammy Brown, 1 for 19. Ricky Seals-Jones, 2 for 19. Curtis Samuel, 2 for 19, or 4 for 19. Antonio Gibson, 2 for 12. And Jarrett Patterson, 1 for 11. On the Atlanta offense here, Matt Ryan was 25 for 42 for 283 yards, 4 touchdowns, quarterback rating of 111.5. Rushing, Cordarrelle Patterson, 6 for 34. Wayne Gallman, 6 for 29. and it goes down from there. Receiving wise, Cordero Patterson again, leading receiver, 5 for 82, 3 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley, 7 for 80. Kyle Pitts, 4 for 50, and it goes down from there. This is an easy one, but I said we'd start it. So did Tressway out punt the offense?
I'm going to say no this time.
Yeah, no, he only had 2 punts, so 2 for 84. And the first one wasn't a very good punt.
Right.
Yeah, so no, he did not punt the offense. On defense, the one sack was Montez Sweat. Quarterback hits. Cole Holcomb was credited with 1. Jonathan Allen 1. Chase Young 1. Montez Sweat obviously 1. Tim Settle 1. So that's quarterback hits. So leading tackler was Cole Holcomb with 9. And then Collins and Allen had 8, and it goes down from there. And for those wondering, Chase Young was credited with 4 tackles. So that is stats for the day. Oh, plus, Andre Carter, 3 kick returns, 152 yards with the long of 101 and a touchdown. How often do we see that?
I was thinking about it. I think the last time we saw a special teams touchdown was probably when Jamison Crowder had that day against the Ravens, which was probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
That's a good callback.
We beat the Ravens in a close one. It was like 2 teams in the teens, like 17-14, 17-16 or something, and Crowder had a punt return for a touchdown. I can't remember anything between then and now.
It may go back to like Rock Cartwright or something for a touchdown on a kickoff.
Yeah, it might. Well, hold on. Sims might have had it. No, Sims had a touchdown on a kickoff. I remember that now. That one year he was good on kickoffs. He had 1. So
there you go.
Yes.
But certainly it hasn't come quickly. Let's just say that.
No. And I think league-wide, they're pretty rare now. It's not like the B-Mitch days or anything, where teams would have 2 or 3 of those a year. Because the NFL hates fun and hates special teams.
It's the no-fun league.
It really is. It really is. All right, why don't we start talking about the Washington defense?
Okay.
I feel like we need to get some bad juju, and let's talk about what this defense still is doing wrong. Because, there was a lot of talk by this defense this week saying, we got to get right, we got to do our jobs, blah, 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 blah. And you still sucked. Somebody else posted this on social media, and I'm going to just, rip it off. I don't need to hear from you guys anymore. Anything you say in the press, I don't care. I need to see action on the field. Chase Young can talk all he wants. It's hollow because he's underperforming. Jack Del Rio, you suck balls as an offensive or defensive coordinator. So, just keep your mouth quiet and do what you're supposed to actually do, because that's what I'm not seeing. And Steve, I don't want to name any names because, these are people I work with. I work with somebody, he spends a lot of time at DeMatha. He's a coach of another sport. But, he has access to these guys like Chase Young and Patterson. And he and I were talking the other day, and he told me Young and Del Rio, he thinks they're just not on the same page at all. He knows Chase Young he's known Chase Young since he was a teenager. And he's like, this guy is, he should just be a wrecking crew, and he's not on the same page as his coordinator. And that's a problem, Steve.
I'll take your friend's word for it. What I saw, that Marcus Spears video last week opened my eyes a little bit. And I thought what Spears was showing that Young needed to expand his pass rushing repertoire. And look what happened today. What did we see? Multiple stunts by Young, which we don't normally see from this guy. Multiple times did he Robbie always called it a twist. I always called it a stunt, but you guys know what I'm talking about here.
Right.
So I that's, I got to stop. I was trying to run a search through Pro Football Reference about the last touchdown on the cat, but I can't do that and talk.
No, that's all right.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So, Chase Young, so I thought that he played better. He still didn't get home, and we're in week 4 and he has no sacks from Mr. I want to, we want to get 20 sacks, whatever he said, in the off season.
There was some vision of him and Sweat both having 20 apiece.
Is that what it was? It's just absurd. Yeah. Physically, yes, he should be a wrecking crew. I hear you. I hear your friend. But takes more than that in the NFL. There's a lot of physical beasts in the NFL. But there's a lot of talented offensive linemen too. So I don't know if it's Jack Del Rio or if it's just Chase Young being selfish or some combination of both. They did play better today generally, but again, this is Atlanta, and they were supposed to play better against a bad offensive line and basically a bad team. So I don't know what
Right.
the truth is. What I do know is that Chase Young in particular hasn't produced and didn't produce today.
Yeah, I think we all saw that. Like he didn't play badly today. He got more tackles, I feel like, than he has in most games. Based off of the numbers you've been saying. And he didn't look terrible. He wasn't out of position like last week, but he's still just not getting home. And the one time he kind of does anything, that hit on Matt Ryan where he kind of just shoved him. And you said you think it's a face mask or a personal foul. I don't see it at all.
We can
To me,
disagree. It's okay.
yeah,
I disagree. I would disagree
yeah.
with you.
But like that's the closest he's gotten to a sack all year too, which that's a problem. Like that might be the closest he's gotten in 4 games.
I mean, it's not exactly a secret that this team is built on defense
Right.
with those four guys. And what do we mean by that? What do we mean, if for those of you wondering, the team has put an enormous amount of draft capital, way too much, in my opinion. I don't think they needed to put 4 first-round picks into that line, but
No.
regardless, they did it, and here we are. And so what that means is that group needs to be a wrecking crew every single week, and they haven't been any week this year.
Right.
Yeah, they did a little better against Matt Ryan, but Matt Ryan's faced this time and time again. He's been around forever. What did he do? He got rid of the ball really quick. He stepped up into the pocket. He even scrambled a couple times, for God's sakes. And he's a statue.
Mm-hmm.
So they just didn't do their job, today. And yet again, another team put 30 points up. We're going to see what the stats show when I do the stat package for the game preview show. But they're going to
Right.
be in the bottom 2 or 3 in the NFL in points allowed.
All right.
So
Well, I want to change gears, talking about defense still, but the one thing we kind of red flagged in this game was Kyle Pitts.
yeah,
And this team's not good against good tight ends. What would you evaluate, just gut reaction? How do they play Kyle Pitts overall?
well, they're lucky he dropped the ball or two.
Sure.
I mean, Kendall Fuller had a good play on him. Got a hand in there to save a touchdown, I believe, there on the goal line.
Yeah.
In the second half, that was a good play. Honestly, I mean, and I think this is true for Atlanta's receivers generally. I mean, they did more to hurt themselves than Washington did to hurt them. That's what I'd say. I mean, how many passes did Atlanta drop? My goodness, I didn't keep track, but a ton
It
of
felt like
balls.
5 or 6, yeah.
Yes, it did. And big plays, and Pitts was involved in that. So, I think Pitts is going to be long term. He's going to be an outstanding receiver. Call him a tight end or whatever you want to call him, but he just has to kind of get used to the NFL and NFL balls and whatnot. So I don't think Washington did a particularly great job on him. I just think he dropped some balls. I mean, there were 9 targets, 4 receptions, but at least a couple of those were on Pitts.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse yardage wise.
And by the way, I would almost, with Pitts, and there's a lot of guys like this now who are kind of this wide receiver tight end hybrid. I'd almost think of them like a wing back in the 1950s, where they're not tight ends. They're not blockers. They're
Well, he's
receiver.
not lining up as a wing though. He's lining up as a
I know, and that's the tricky part. But the mentality of I feel like that's kind of where they are. They go out for receptions for the most part, but they are physical.
Well, remember Donald Parham from last year's training camp? I mean, Washington he caught on with. We just saw him. Was it the Giants? Somebody. Washington just had him. I can't remember who one of them. But anyway, Donald Parham was a guy like this. Like you're talking about. He's really long, really lanky. They made him a tight end because. He was too slow and too tall to make him a receiver, and so there you go. But he didn't play like a tight end at all. He was just basically a huge slot receiver, and you can kind of throw Pitts in there. That having been said, they did try to have him block a little bit on run, at least once or twice.
Right.
But no, I certainly that's not his thing. Certainly his thing is I'm going to out athlete every linebacker out there, which for the most part he does, and he did today. Um, you know, he
Yeah.
dropped a couple balls. Good play by Fuller. There's three of them right there. So it could have been worse. I think we'll see him get better and better as time goes on.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. All right, so let's wrap up talking about this defense. Obviously, there's still issues. I think I kind of summed up my feelings earlier when I said, I don't need to hear from you guys anymore until you do something. But, Steve, I want your final thoughts on this defense before we move to the offense.
My final thought is Chase Young, shut up. Number one. I mean, it was him in the press conference last week where he was talking in his press conference this week where he was talking about, if anybody's, talking smack or something, come find, tell me, or just shut up, just produce.
If people are joking around or whatever, yeah.
That's ridiculous. You do your job. Tell you produce like Julius Peppers. You aren't Julius Peppers. So, but my final thoughts. I mean, this defense just is nowhere close to where it needs to be. They gave up 30 points to the Falcons, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
They have a long way to go, and the wrecking crew is coming here in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we might have a puncher's chance against the Saints, but you look at this schedule coming up, and this
Pretty
next
bad.
quarter of the schedule is probably one of their worst. So,
Yes.
I'm glad I'm out of town for a couple of these games. Yes. All right. Well, let's flip sides and talk about the positives, Steve.
Okay.
Because I'll say this. I tweeted this out. I don't know that Taylor Heineke is the answer for this team more than just this season, but I do love watching him play. We've talked about it before. He plays with heart, and that's all you can ask for a guy like him. Like he doesn't have the elite arm. We know that, but he ran the ball a lot this week, which it seemed like they were telling him not to run, and they said, "Eff it, just play your game this week, and we'll see how that goes." He was much more effective, I feel like, when he was given the green light to take off with it when he needed to. So I want to start with him, and then we can talk about the rest of the offense. But
I mean, look, to me, Taylor Heineke looks like at least an NFL starting quarterback.
mm-hmm.
He doesn't look lost out there. He doesn't look overwhelmed. He's a leader. No, he doesn't have, John Elway's arm or Aaron Rodgers' arm, but it also isn't like a pathetically weak arm, like a John Beck arm either. It's, Colt McCoy or better, at least.
Yeah.
He's in that category, I'd say. He
A
completed
20th to 30th best arm, let's say.
Yeah, roughly. I don't know how you count that, but yeah, I mean,
Sure.
he's certainly in the lower middle of the pack somewhere, in terms of arm strength. But again, he completed 70% of his passes. He didn't throw any interceptions. He didn't make any really too many dumb mistakes, like really dumb throws. I told you guys that Terry McLaurin was going to have a big day, with this coverage, and what happened? Sure, he did. What I like about Heineke, he is not afraid to go deep. I have got so sick and tired of seeing Washington dink and dunk their way down the field just over the past several years. I'm so glad they have a quarterback who's not afraid to do that, and it pays dividends.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's be fair. Last year, for the most part, Alex Smith couldn't. He just didn't have the strength left to go deep. That was a physical limitation.
It wasn't just last year, though. I mean, it was the entirety of the Jay Gruden tenure, basically.
Well, not when Kirk was throwing 5,000 yards, but, after they got rid of their good receivers, yes, I agree with you there.
So,
but here nor there. Looking at, I want to focus mostly on this game here. I loved how he worked Curtis Samuel back into this thing. Curtis Samuel had what were his total numbers?
It's Curtis Samuel.
Yes.
Curtis Samuel's 4 for 19 on 4 targets.
At least 3 of those 4 were first downs, though. I feel like, and I
3
know
of
that
them were definitely first downs.
Yeah, I don't know if he went 4 for 4 on first downs, but at least 3 were, and they were all just trust the guy to get the ball and make a play. Same with J.D. McKissick, like we saw in that final drive. You threw a ball to a guy, and you're like, I don't know if he'll make it, but he has a shot, so trust him.
That McKissick thing was emergency outlet valve who
Right.
turned into a touchdown. It was, all hail to J.D. McKissick for that. By the way, can we play Hail to the Redskins at some point in this show? I'd really like to hear it in the show. Maybe we can put it at the top of the show since I'm thinking about it like
Sure.
at
I'll
minute
try and remember.
25.
Let me jot this down when I'm editing the
Because we
show.
can, and it's our show, and so we can do this. And we want the team won a big victory. I want to hear Hail to the Redskins for God's sakes.
All right. I'm putting that. I'm writing a note to myself.
By the
Hopefully I
way,
remember.
while I'm also thinking about it here, can we go over just mention the injuries, the enormous list? So what I wrote
Oh
down,
yeah, this became a bag game.
yeah, a
for
little bit.
Washington.
I'm glad
Yeah.
they won. So they lost Logan Thomas, lower
Right.
leg injury, hamstring for the game, status unknown. Cole Holcomb went out. De'Ami Brown went out and didn't come back. Sheriff went out and didn't come back. Both of those were knees. And then John Bostic went out and didn't come back. Cam Sims had a hamstring. Antonio Gibson went out and then came back. Terry McLaurin went out and came back. And then John Allen went out, and I didn't notice whether he came. That was toward the end of the game. I didn't notice whether he came back or
Can
not.
we talk about Terry McLaurin coming back and making the catch of catches for that touchdown? Like
Crazy.
it's like he limped out of the game and then comes back 2 plays later and makes the Hail Mary miracle catch in the back of the end zone there.
It was like like Taylor Heineke's like Hail Mary,
Right.
throw it up. This is the backyard football.
Yep.
Off his butt practically. Yeah, that was an amazing.
Scream 500 and hope your friend gets it.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if kids still play 500. I'm old enough. Steve, you probably remember the game 500 as a kid.
I do not.
No? You would just, have a bunch of people and you'd scream numbers and whoever gets to 500 wins. It was a game.
Okay,
So,
well, we'll let
yeah,
that
whatever.
go, since nobody but you seems to know what that game is.
All right, fine. Fine.
But anyway, so it's a huge injury list.
Mhm.
But here's a good thing. So Washington was averaging 4.2 yards per carry heading into this game. They hit 4.4 at least. Still not great. But it's better. And against a weaker team, we also told you they needed to start a little bit of run game, which they did. Antonio Gibson averaged 4.5 yards a carry, so that's a positive thing. So I thought, generally speaking, the offensive line was opening up better holes and better running lanes than they had. They looked pretty good. And granted, yes, it's Atlanta. I understand that, but still, they did the job and they protected Heineke. Didn't get sacked at all, or I guess he had 1 sack. But yeah, he was credited with the sack. I'm trying even to remember the play.
Oh, you know what? It's when he took off with the ball and he was trying to scramble and got taken down right at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was a fake sack, basically.
Yeah. I think he leads the league in fake sacks now.
He got pounded a couple times in the pocket, but he never
Yes,
got
he
a
did.
sack in the pocket. Praise to the offensive line. And that's with Brandon Scherf being out for a quarter and a half, basically, or whatever it was.
So you're talking about Gibson and his numbers. The thing that's impressive about his average and all that, he never had a big game or big play. Like a lot of times you'll see these yards per carry numbers, and you'll note, oh, this guy had one 50-yard run, and that kind of compensates for the fact that everything else is under 2 or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, and I do try to carve those out.
I know you do. I know you do, but
you're right in pointing this out. And Gibson is basically hitting 4 to 5 yards every single carry.
Every single carry, yeah. I think his lowest carry might have been just about 2 or something like that. But generally, he was getting 4-6 yards at a time. He wasn't. I don't think he had one run that was like 10 yards even.
ESPN credited him with a long of 8.
Okay, so 8. I mean, yeah, that kind of proves the point. Never had a huge run. Just did the yeoman's work, as I'd like to say.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Amen to you, brother.
Yeah, that's that. And this is another game where he had, about 60 yards altogether? So
63 yards.
Yeah, that seems to be his average every week now, rushing.
Well, I mean, and it's going to be that. If you get him between 10 and 15 carries a game, that's what it's going to equal out to. I mean, he's not going to get to 100 unless you get him to 20 carries,
Right.
Really.
And that, you know what, that's fine. I'm okay with this kind of being where he's at right now. Because he'll still get close to 1,000 yards if you do this every week.
Yeah, I mean, if you take away Taylor Heineke's scrambles, and they're counting those as runs.
Sure.
And so then what you have is 33 called pass attempts and then 23 rushing attempts. 14 to Gibson, 7 to McKissick, and then 2 to Patterson is 23. So, I mean, in today's NFL offense, that's about what you're going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that I know there's a lot of people who'd love to see it still be 50-50, but that's not where the NFL is anymore.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, and they didn't Washington didn't have all that many offensive plays this week either because Atlanta had multiple long time consuming drives and stuff. So, I mean, the
Right.
time of possession was probably out of whack would be my guess.
Yeah, our defense can't stop anybody. That's a nice way of what you're saying to say what you're
Yes,
saying.
yes, true. Yes, but what
Um
else on offense? I mean, I like the fact that they involved DeAndre Carter a little bit more.
yeah.
They had him on the one pass.
Yeah, he had that
There.
one really nice catch in the big drive there at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Curtis Samuel, after all the wait, I mean, he didn't make a huge impact. Yes, he moved the chains 3 times, but we didn't see a gigantic impact. I understand. I guess the broadcast crew said Cam Sims had a hamstring injury or something. I didn't even see him out there hardly, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't remember him playing.
I
So
like I said before, I'm kind of done with the De'Ami Brown experiment here. I just think the touchdown attempt to Brown in the end zone would have been a catch if that had been Cam Sims at 6'5",
right.
for example. So I don't know about his injury status. We'll see. But to me, I think Sims needs to be starting over Brown from this point forward, assuming health.
I mean, look, you got to keep grooming Brown. I'm not going to give up on him, but he's a rookie and he's not Terry. He's going to take 2 years or something like that to develop, hopefully. So, I'm fine with what you're saying. You play Sims more. I mean, Brown did have one nice catch today that I remember. For whatever that was.
I'm not saying he sucks. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, of
saying
course
I
not.
think Cam Sims needs to be out there playing.
Yeah. And I think they're also trying to figure out how much you play Curtis Samuel, how much you play Adam Humphries. I mean, they've got different guys who do different things. And, my one criticism of Scott Turner is I don't get any sense of, like, what is your scheme here? What is your plan with how you're playing your receivers? I'll continue to harp on why does he keep clustering receivers in the same space so much? Like, Heineke almost had a turnover again because he had 2 receivers who were like basically just standing next to each other downfield, and it makes no sense to ever do that.
Um,
I don't understand what's going on there with Scott Turner.
I I thought his play calling was a little better today.
It was better, but
Yeah, well, and it was better specifically because at least there was one drive there where he kind of had Atlanta off balance there in the second half by relying on the run
mhm.
over and over and over again. And lo and behold, it worked. Not saying, that would be the result if he did that all the time, but I thought that his play calling was a little bit better. And he is helped a lot by the fact that Taylor Heineke is so willing to kind of do anything,
Sure.
rather than last year. By the way,
But
another injury report. I'm now looking at Twitter, unfortunately, and I forgot to mention Torrey McTyer went out on a cart. So that's
on the last play, yeah, I saw
yeah,
that. I saw him
yeah.
go down with like a knee injury or something. So
Well,
that
see,
sucks.
the
Oh, we forgot to mention that Torm. I'm sorry. I know it probably follows the rules again, but the pass interference called on McTyer, where the ball hit him in the back of the head, not the receiver. It hit the cornerback. That shouldn't be a pass
I
interference.
thought it was clearly and obviously, very clearly pass interference.
It's not a catchable ball if it hits the defender.
I thought it was a clear and obvious pass interference. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't think that was even a question.
I think it's highly questionable if it hits the
I mean,
defender.
look, Alex, it's okay for you to be wrong like this. It's fine.
It
We're
hits
all
the
wrong. In
defender.
this case, you're
It's not
wrong.
interference because it's not a catchable. So that's basic physics.
It was not an uncatchable ball.
How are you going to catch it if it's hitting him in the helmet?
It wasn't a great throw,
It's
but
a
it wasn't
terrible throw. That makes it not catchable.
totally uncatchable ball. I didn't think at all. I thought it was the right call, and I thought he got away with another one too. By the way, that should have been called. Incidentally, in there, Torrey McTyer did not have a good day.
Well, he had one really nice pass breakup later, but I will say that.
Yeah, he had the one. That's true.
Yeah,
But look, I guess the only other thing I really want to say here, because I think we're way over time at this point, aren't we?
probably.
Um, I think Curtis Samuel they tried to sort of ease him in. He didn't. They didn't have him running any deep routes.
No.
Over the middle routes. It was all flat passes and passes to the flats and stuff. So either that was them easing him in, or Mark Bullock was right, and they're basically calling him the gadget guy because he didn't really play like a traditional receiver today. So I think we're going to see in future games, as he gets more integrated with the offense, what happens. Because I thought it was interesting when Mark Sanchez, talk about irony, by the way, he's our color announcer.
Right.
But anyway, how Sanchez said, well, they got Curtis Samuel back, implying that he was ever there in the first place, which he never was. So they didn't really get him back so much as they got Curtis Samuel,
Right, exactly. And I think it is easing him in like a old man into a hot tub situation.
Yeah, that's the sense I got too. That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to say. That's a decent analogy. Yeah.
Yes, it's don't just send him on fly routes or anything right away.
It's like, you have those bathtubs for the physically for the people with physical challenges, when the
Right.
door opens and you kind of gently ease them in. That's what they were doing to Curtis Samuel.
Right. It's a waterproof. It's a water sealed bathtub door.
Yes.
Oh, I know exactly what you're. It's not John Denver because he's dead, but it's like some old timey folk singer who does the does the ad for it.
We're
I can't
comparing Curtis Samuel to
Yes.
an old dude stepping into a bathtub. But yes.
It
And,
might be Joe
congrats-
Namath. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember. And again, congrats to DeAndre Carter. If I didn't say that already, we did at the beginning.
yeah, we did. We did.
Because that kick return was all on him. That was
Yep.
a great return.
He gutted that one out. He made one or two moves to just get past the defenders. It was a good kick return to start the half.
And the only last thing I'll say is, Dustin Hopkins. It looked. I didn't see the second one, but the first one, the first missed extra point, it didn't look like a good hold to me. It looked like the ball was tilted way to the left, or to the right rather. I don't know if they're still having problems with the mechanics of the snap, given the fact that Cheeseman is in there now, or if Hopkins just stunk the joint up on the extra points or what. But it looked like at least one of them, it was a bad hold. But that having been said, Hopkins needs to make them. It's for extra points for
They're
Christ's
extra
sake.
points. We missed out on 3 extra points, one on a 2-point conversion, but still, that's 3 extra
Yeah,
points.
two of them on him. But again, it just sort of, and they're all going right, and the ball was tilted right, and it just makes me think that it's more of a mechanical thing than maybe Hopkins. But I don't. And Rivera has alluded to that over the past couple weeks too.
I think all his misses have gone right so far.
Yeah.
So
right. So it makes me wonder if the mechanics of the snap and the hold are not going well.
Yeah. I tweeted out, make sure you line it up at the left hash if Hopkins has to try the game-winning field goal at some point. And people are yelling at me like, you don't play football that way. I'm like, no, that's how you coach football to win a game. Just if everything's going to the right, line up on the left.
Well, if that's possible, I mean, you got to get the quarterback to
sure.
sneak it to the left or something, maybe.
Just keep it in mind. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm sure the Twitter Illuminati out there are calling for Dustin Hopkins' head.
They
and
are,
all
yes.
that. But
They were calling for his head before the game, though. That's the problem.
Funny to me that y'all think that, like, Ron Rivera is going to get out the weird science machine and go create a kicker that has been all of a sudden out of nothing and nowhere that's going to be better than Dustin Hopkins. It's just funny to me.
Sure.
It's week 4, for God's sakes.
Well, if it's a weird science kicker, can it be like a supermodel like
But
that?
we'll get Kelly LeBrock out there to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kelly
But you know
LeBrock,
what I mean.
still
It's
hot.
that's an old 80s movie reference, people. Some of you out there will get that.
And 90s TV series reference based off the
Was it?
80s.
I didn't know there was.
Yeah,
even-
USA Network had like a weird science TV series for like 5 years. It was a weird whole thing.
knew.
You wouldn't care. You were doing a real job. I was in high school. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. Let's do game balls.
Okay.
All right, I'll let you go first. I feel like you know where you're going.
No, not at all. But
Oh no.
No, if no, it's okay, but I'll muddle through here.
All
So
right.
to me, um, there's three candidates. Taylor Heineke as the quarterback, Terry McLaurin, big day, 2 touchdowns,
Yep.
and DeAndre Carter would be the other one. And I'm going to go with McLaurin because he had 2 touchdowns instead of one, and
And they were both
120.
beautiful touchdowns that he made. Like
Yeah,
Heineke put it up there, but he really made those.
yeah. So I'm going to go with McLaurin, although I'm tempted. DeAndre Carter gets an honorable mention. And in terms of defense, boy, I don't know, man. It was another sucky, lousy defensive game. Oh, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this defense anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Nobody in the secondary deserves anything. The linebackers don't deserve. I mean, I guess by default, I'm going to give it to Montez Sweat for actually getting a sack, but he gets a deflated game ball for me. So Montez Sweat by default.
Yeah, I would also add. I mean, so many guys on the offense just did good work. No, maybe not great. You got to put both running backs in there, Gibson and McKissick. They're if you want to talk about the whole "do your job" mantra that Chase Young was yelling about, those are guys actually doing their job. It's not a lot of glory, but they're adding yards. They're getting a few big plays here and there. That's doing your job,
Yeah, I'd recommend Chase take his own advice.
right? Um. So who'd you give it to on offense?
I
You
give it
went
to
Terry.
McLaurin and then Montez Sweat by default.
Let me give it to Heineke. So we're distributing these game balls on offense fairly because they both had good days. Like I said, 4 or 5 guys could get it on offense, but those are the big two. On defense, I'm with you. None of these guys really deserve anything.
Give up 30 points to Atlanta Falcons. It's hard to give a defensive game ball.
Right. I'll go with you, Sweat. He's the only one who had all play.
Yeah, and I'm going
Yeah.
to give DeAndre Carter a hearty handshake.
Yep. I'll give him a jumping high five. Like those big high fives guys give on a big play. That's what he gets.
I
An
think he can
80s
probably
style,
jump a lot
everyone
higher.
jump in the air, high five, and then we freeze frame and fade to black.
He can probably jump a lot higher than you can, would be my guess.
Yeah, but I have 3 inches on him. So,
He can still out jump you.
yes, he can. He can. I have 3 inches and probably 40 pounds on the guy.
Yes, probably so.
So he can out jump me, but I'm taller. So it works out. We do the 80s high five, fade to black, some hard rock music and credits. And that's the end of the show.
Listen,
So-
at the end of the day, Washington won, and that's a good thing. And they saved their season. And respective, he walked away 2-2 out of the first quarter,
Yep.
or sort of almost the first quarter of the season with 17 games. I mean, it's about what we all sort of thought would happen, and they got to build on this, because the next 4 weeks are going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah, I don't know if how we're long term if we're gonna say first quarter or is it the first 5 games? Like, is the 5 games the final quarter or the first quarter? Because it's not
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
don't
one of
know.
the middle quarters. That would be crazy. So
I tend to want to stack it at the front just to get it over with. That would
Right.
be my
yeah, that's me too. I tend to want to say the first 5 games, then quarter.
right.
But I think everyone's gonna go the other way because they're wrong.
I'll take useless debates for 100, Alex.
And we would lose that debate because we're in the minority. So
Probably.
Yep. All right, guys. We will talk to you next week. We got the Saints preview game, or Saints preview show. Saints game next week. They lost to New York, or they beat New York. I don't even know.
I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
see what happened, but you guys out there know if you're listening
Yes,
to this.
you
right
guys
now.
know, and I know I saw their weird fat old white quarterback ran for like 5 touchdowns or something.
It's hard for us to keep up with other games when we're doing this.
Right. We're not watching Red Zone. We're actually
Right.
watching this game. That's what we do.
Yes.
That's our commitment to you. Is we actually watch the games. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Later.